Well, hello and welcome to the Frustration of Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Troy Eadie, and this podcast is all about revolutionizing the way that you think so that you can overcome your frustrations to achieve freedom. Today, I've got with me one of our team members, Rob Phayer, and he's our marketing expert. And so today, what we're going to be talking about is marketing from our perspective. So, I'm really wanting to be able to pick Rob's brain so that you can understand how he thinks about marketing, which is probably different to how you've heard it before. So if you are selling business to business, like a manufacturer, a distributor, a professional service firm, like an accountant, a lawyer, or someone that wants to be an authority or is a specialist in their field, then this methodology is specifically for you. Rob, hello, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
Great to be involved on the other side of the camera.
So specifically today, let's have a look at how we see some of our clients thinking when we first meet them. Then let's share with them how we want them to start thinking so that they can implement the right things to be able to achieve, the right result.
Yep.
So, just a bit about yourself.
Yep. So I'm Rob. Obviously, I work for Troy, and we've been doing this exact marketing as we do for our clients for a number of years now. Yep. So we've basically seen it all. We've done it all. So we know what works.
And this has been a really interesting thing for us in our firm because we were taught one thing before we started doing this, but what we've been taught versus what we see working was two different things. So we used to run workshops at the MCG every single month for about 4 years. And I used to I'd go, who here is grown by some U-Butte marketing campaign? I'd be raising my hand, raise your hand. And no one raised their hand. Who here has grown their business by word of mouth and referrals? And so there was something fundamentally wrong with what we were presenting. Marketing talks a lot about, ads and generation of leads.
Yeah, leads.
But it's not always, that's not actually the area you want to focus on. So what we're going to look at today is, some of the problems we see, and we'll give you very specific steps, even something you can download so that you can do a bit of a health check on yourself and start implementing this yourself. So let's start. We'll look at some of the problems, and then we'll look at the exact steps you want to implement. So Rob, what are some of the problems you see some of our clients, your potential clients, when they come to us? What are some of the things that they're saying?
Yeah, so it really comes down to the focus area, and they come in and their first thing that they ask me is, how do I get more leads?
Yeah.
And you're really asking the wrong question. There's so many other things further down the line. Can you service those leads? Can you keep up with maintaining once they become a client? Can you do all this? These are all the sort of questions you need to answer before you even get to, can you get me leads? Because I can get you leads, but what are you going to do with them? And you won't have the processes to maximize those leads. So it's like, why am I going to give you more leads? And you're going to spend money on them when you're not even be able to service them, convert them, and all of this sort of thing.
Oh, great. So how is it that they determined that they needed more leads?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And so when you dig to the bottom of it, it's probably, a business owner that's woken up and there's not enough money, right? And so there's not enough money, which then they think, I need more leads because I have more leads. I have more inquiries, more quotes, more jobs, more money.
It seems like the quickest fix.
Yeah.
Just get me more leads. No. It's like you're fixing the symptoms, not the deeper root cause.
Yeah.
And particularly with, sort of the small to medium-sized businesses that we're talking about, they're not going to have a marketing team on staff. So they're going to be doing it themselves. So basically, they either spend the time doing the work, and then when that dries up, they spend their time getting the work.
And that's really the issue, isn't it? It's the peaks and troughs.
Correct.
Like, if you're listening now, you would have had great months, and then you'd have those bad months. And then you look at the end of the year or the quarter, and the money's not there.
Correct.
And then you go, okay, the money's not there. I need more leads.
Yeah.
But that's really it. What we see happens is that makes the cycle worse.
Correct. Yeah.
So you bigger troughs, bigger peaks.
Yeah, and it all comes down to the focus. You're focusing on one thing, and then your focus changes to another thing, and then the other thing just goes backwards or suffers. So we want to shift that focus to something else that's more sustainable, and it's going to help you grow and achieve your goals.
Yeah. So if you don't have enough leads, you don't have enough money, you feel like you're stuck in the center of the business and you're feeling the peaks and troughs, then this is probably the steps that you want to take. So if someone was wanting to overcome this, where do we start?
Yep, strategy is the best place to start.
Yeah.
And you talk to clients and you ask them things like, who is your ideal client? And they can regurgitate something to you, but is it actually the right ideal client? Have they actually gone down and thought about it properly? Or do they just go, yeah, I know who it is? Or we don't have one ideal client. We market to everybody.
Yeah.
We don't want to exclude people because it means we're going to lose money.
Yeah.
And that's something you hear quite often. So that the strategy of who your ideal client is something that is so, so important.
Yeah. And look, I think everyone's heard about having an ideal client, but I think the thing that's missing is why. And, we just talked about the peaks and troughs, and we talked about not enough money. So what we really want is less peaks and troughs. So we want more of a curve, a curve that's slowly going up. If anything, it scales in time and just really ramps up. So, what's the best way to create a more even curve? And the best way we know how to help clients do that is to have a strategy. Like if instead of you having to always go out and hunt, so there's not enough work, we've got to go find more work. Well, a specialist doesn't need to necessarily find more work because they're probably too busy saying, no, we don't do that. And even if you come along to some of our workshops, we can introduce you to some of our clients. We've got truss manufacturers that say no to a lot of work. We've got, security bollards and fencing. We've got, accountants, an engineer, that they say no to particular types of work. So, if you want to get to the point where you've got more than enough inquiries and the growth is an even curve, the reality is you need to listen to what Rob's saying, which is to have a specific ideal client.
Yeah.
So when we talk about this, what are some of the objections you get from clients?
Yeah, well, I mean, just touching on, like you've said the word, no, it is the most important word you're going to say. And yeah, like objections people come up with is things like, we don't want to say no to work because we need that money to come in.
Yeah.
But as you alluded to, saying no is a really powerful thing. And if you set yourself up to have an ideal client and only say yes to that ideal client, you then build a bit of an authority about being the expert to that one ideal client, and if you focus further down the line, you're going to build your business around this ideal client, servicing this ideal client.
Yeah, skill sets of your team.
Exactly. So you become so laser focused, and especially with your marketing and all of your language and all of your targeting, if you're really, really specific, then you're going to be getting more of your ideal client because they're going to refer other people that are like them because they know you're the best at dealing with that exact ideal client. Not, I can do everything.
Yeah.
If you want to get someone to fix your car, you're not going to go, oh, okay, well, you can fix motorbikes, you can fix cars, you can fix boats, you can fix anything with a motor. Great. Or do I want the person that specializes in fixing my particular car?
Well, that's happened with us at the moment. We're getting our jet skis serviced, and we're sick of our current place because they do boats, fishing boats as well as jet ski, and they're just not doing a good enough job. So we've gone to a jet ski specialist.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's very real for us right now.
Yeah,
and look, it's interesting because people come to us, particularly you, and want you to help them create a marketing system. But if that marketing system is for everyone, well, who's going to open it? Like everyone gets emails, everyone gets content these days, and you're only going to open something that's specifically for, hey, Rob, are you a marketing consultant of a firm?
Yeah, exactly.
Then this is for you.
Yeah, you're correctly right. It's all the language that you use has got to be directed towards your ideal client. Your whole message, your whole business, everything has to be aiming laser focused at your ideal client. Because that's the only way that you're going to pique their interest. Otherwise, you just fall into the blend of all the other marketing firms, all the other.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then you'll get crunched on price, become more of a commodity, and then feeding back to how we started, which is not enough money. So we want the opposite of that. You want a specialist, someone People are queuing to come to you. They're willing to pay the price because they want the job done. They want it done properly. And so, some of the things that some of you are thinking right now are, but Troy and Rob, you don't understand. We already have clients in manufacturing, warehousing, distributors, restaurants. We already have clients that are builders and architects. So we have a very diverse range. And so we're just about every client that comes to us has this diverse range. And it's very good for you to have that diverse range. That's how you got to where you are. What we're talking about is smoothing out the peaks and troughs. So it's not about going back and changing the past or changing your current client base. It's about looking forward and designing the business of the future. A really good book is a book called Built to Sell. So if you haven't been on Audible, go have a listen to that at some point. And it takes this point even further. But what we're talking about is if you come to an organization like us or you go to implement a campaign yourself, you don't want a campaign that markets to every single client you have. You want a campaign that brings in that one that will pay you what you're worth, will take your advice, will get you involved earlier on in the process, is systemizable, scalable, repeats, buys, and then it's not about changing the past. It's about moving forward, targeting this very specific client.
Yeah, and quite often, you can always start with one ideal client, which is exactly what we recommend for everybody. And there's no reason once you have perfected that you can't then go and identify a second ideal client. And
that's really close.
But you need to finish perfecting your first ideal client. So you don't want to just get halfway through and then go into a second. You've got to really get it functioning, get all the language correct, get all the systems set up, then you can focus on a second one. So we're not saying that we're going to completely limit you, but if you want to make a really big impact and you want to do it quickly, you need to be really laser focused.
Yeah. And if you notice Rob's language, marketing is just not generation of the lead. Marketing actually, if you just imagine a workflow from start to finish, and you generate the lead turns into an inquiry, a quote, quote one turns into a job, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 of the job, then we invoice. And then the very last step in that workflow is word of mouth or repeat buying. And so marketing doesn't actually finish until that client has referred you or they buy again.
Yep.
So marketing actually encompasses the entire business.
Absolutely.
And if you want to have more peaks and troughs, then you just focus on the very front end, generate more leads. But if you want to focus on a more even growth, you actually want to start from the end and ask yourself, so yes, who do we want to be a specialist with? But then how do we get more referrals?
Yep.
And then build your system from the back forward. It's really counterintuitive, isn't it?
Absolutely. But the best analogy is like that bucket with all of the holes in it, and if you just pour water into this bucket, all the water just goes out the holes.
Yeah.
And it's the same with leads. You could put as many leads as you want in that bucket, but if you haven't got the right conversion processes, you haven't got the right systems in place, all those leads are just falling out the holes of the bucket.
Yeah.
So you need to plug those holes. You need to fix the system before you start putting volume into it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just wasting your time and you're wasting your money.
And I think that's the key. This is the key message. And people are either going to click off now or they're really going to lean into this audio, because marketers are there to generate you more leads. That's no question. And where we're wanting to get you to shift your mind from is stop thinking about the leads and start thinking about what you're doing with what you got.
Yeah.
Who do you want to be known for? What are you a specialist at? How well are you servicing? Really well servicing what you've got. And is it well enough to be getting referrals? And if you can tick those boxes, you'll be like some of the like the engineering firm that we talked about, or the truss manufacturer that is saying no to things, because it's just, I don't know. Some people right now will be listening to it and thinking, yeah, it's so backwards, but it actually works. And you'll go meet another accounting firm, go meet another manufacturer that has 30, 40 odd team members, the point where you want to get to. And I bet you they don't have some U-Butte marketing campaign. I'll put money on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how have they grown?
Exactly.
They've grown from this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, from servicing their clients and building the back end before they touch the front end. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, people implementing, first of all, so we've got a checklist somewhere here. You'll be able to download it and do a bit of a health check for yourself, see where you're tracking in all of these things. But yeah, so first thing is all about strategy and what's your goal. Because if you do want to grow and you want to scale, then all of these things are applicable. If you want to stay at the current level, then these things you probably could stay diversified and do things. So if you want to grow, set your goals, and then you want to define who that ideal client is.
Yep.
And then what's the second step?
Yeah, well, I was going to go back and say there's a really good exercise that you just literally touched on that got me thinking again, is when you go through the exercise of someone working out their goal and then how many of their ideal clients they need to reach that goal. I think that's a really, really important step because that gives you a really clear focus, not just if we need 100 leads. Well, okay, how many do we actually need to get our goal? How many ideal clients do we actually need?
Yeah, that's a great one. So, because something that's fundamentally different with our marketing is that we want you to count down, not up.
Yeah, exactly.
So if so I was working with an accounting firm. They defined that their ideal client was law firms, and in order for them to hit the $4 million mark, they only need an extra 15 law firms on board. 15 law firms divided by 4 partners, that's not a lot. Yeah. It's a very easy, achievable target now.
Absolutely. And it's such a better strategy than just go get me 1,000 leads or 100 leads or whatever. What does that even mean?
Every time those law firms come in, it's the same work for the same team members, for the same systems, for the same quotes, for the same everything.
Yep.
But then you take the same thing. It's even more important for manufacturing. If you can get more of the same type of work, well, okay, so who is that ideal client? How much do they make you on average per year? And then how many of those do you need to be able to hit that profit mark? So that, again, come back to how we started. If there's not enough money, or you want more profit in the business, that's when we need to start. How much profit do you need? How many ideal clients to hit that target to make that profit?
Yeah, and that just makes
and then count down.
So much easier.
Your entire firm knows we only got 15. Now we got 14. Now we've got 13.
Absolutely. Yeah, get everyone on board.
Yep.
But yeah, so the second step, as you were alluding to, really feeds off the back of that. So once you know how many ideal clients you want, you really need to set up some accountability and some KPIs around your marketing so that you know if you get a certain amount of leads in, what is your percentage of conversion, all of these sorts of things.
Yeah, where do they come from?
Because then when you get to your ideal client, you know how many ideal clients you need, you know how many leads you need to convert to get to that level as well. And it just makes it a lot more easier to measure throughout the process.
You know what I liken this to? I liken it to money. Like, if any of you have younger brothers or sisters here, or even kids, right? And particularly maybe over 18, so they've got their own money, they're starting to live their own life, and they don't have enough money. They want to buy a car or something, and they think that more money will solve their problem. But what we know, giving someone like that more money to solve a problem, to pay a rent bill, to buy something, we know that that's not going to solve their problem. It's a few months down the track, they're going to ask for more money. So what is the answer to that? The answer is teaching them how to budget, track and measure and save their money. So that individual will know where their money is going, what they're spending on it, and they can choose what's more important. Is it Uber Eats or is it their savings? You know what I mean? So then you bring it back into this environment and you want more clients. So more clients isn't going to solve your problem. Like, the most important part is actually understanding, well, how many leads are you getting? Where are they coming from? How many of those leads turn into inquiries? How many of those inquiries turn into quotes? How many of those quotes turn into jobs? And how many of those jobs are profitable? That data, just like the money situation, is more important than the actual client itself.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And like with marketing, it is fact-based. Like, it's not just let's put something into the ecosphere and see if it comes back with leads. Like, you need to be able to test and you need to be able to measure. And if you don't have that in your business, then your marketing is just not going to work. Or you're not going to be able to control it, or you're not going to be able to know what's working and what's not. No. And it sounds like easy, and it sounds like everybody should be doing this, but the fact of the matter is we see clients day in, day out. They have no idea.
No,
They're not
no.
measuring any of this at all.
And I'm hearing some of our clients sometimes, like, because someone now listening will be saying, look, our conversion rate is like 90%. And the reason why they're able to say this is because majority of their work, 90% of their work, will come from referrals. And if you're relating to this right now, listening to this, then you're exactly where you should be. So the type of marketing strategy we're suggesting is about ramping that up, and about scaling that, and I think that's ideally what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, you got to work with what you've got. As we keep saying through this whole thing, it's about maximizing, not just getting a huge amount of volume in, but maximizing what you can do with what you've got. That way, you can turn it up at the end. You can turn up the amount of leads, and you know that you're going to get an increase in result instead of just throwing
That's the
leads
whole
in.
less is more, isn't it?
Yeah, correct.
I bet you if you asked everyone, you said, how much turnover do you want? And most people is like, yeah, turnover's nice, but what we really want is profit. And it's the same thing. You don't turnover, you can have as much of it as you like, but if you've got no profit, there's no point. Same with leads. You can have truckload of leads, but if they're not the right leads, there's no point. So let's get the right leads, convert those leads, and make the right amount of money. And you focus on that and track and measure to make sure that that's the case. You're being held accountable to your strategy.
Absolutely.
And you'll notice, and that's probably, it's an important thing to say now, that this strategy is not a quick win thing. It's about the consistency of it over the next year, 2 years, 3 years. And it's that tortoise and hare situation where the tortoise will win the race. But if you want to go out there and rush and, I don't know, do a $5,000-$6,000 campaign on Facebook and get a bunch of leads and hope that that's going to change your business, it's just going to make another peak.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then a bigger trough.
And even on that, like, we've had clients come in and they've spent money on advertising agencies or marketing firms who have put on Facebook ads and things like that for them and literally got no leads or getting the wrong type of leads and all of this sort of thing.
The fastest way to save you some money right now will be to turn off any advertising you've got.
And get everything right before you get into it. Yeah,
we did that with one of our engineering clients. Turned off Google ads. They stopped getting structural engineer students and mums and dads, all the clients that they didn't really want.
Yeah.
SEO is different depending on your industry, because that's a more longer term strategy that really positions you as authority.
Yeah.
We've got another podcast on that with Jake from Studio Equator if you want to listen to that.
Yeah.
But so strategy, get that right. I think we've really bashed that home.
Yeah.
Second one is getting the structure and the accountability and the KPIs set up, and then what's next? So next is the actual tactics, the systems.
Yep. So we can talk about a little bit of strategy. Again, this is designed around small to medium-sized businesses that sort of don't have a marketing team. So you're going to be doing this all yourself.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be doing it all yourself, the best thing you can do is automate it all. So create systems around delivering, content to your network in a systemized fashion.
Yeah. With the intention to generate more referrals.
Correct.
Around your ideal client.
Correct. Yeah. And I mean, if you're going to look at a strategy, talking about being an expert with your ideal client, we want to build that authority. So we want to position you as the authority. So we do that with education. We don't just go from sales from the start.
Yeah.
Okay, so next after that, so we've talked about strategy and we've talked about accountability. Yeah. So now I want to talk through a system that we use with our clients that I know is really successful. And I want to just give you just a really practical thing that you can take away and maybe start implementing in your business to start getting some results. And it's based around what we've been talking about up until this point. Yep. Based around your ideal client. So what I would do is I would do something like a gift or a white paper. And what the theory behind that is you want to give your ideal client some education. And I'm going to go back to a lot of people are always targeting the end of the cycle, people that are ready to buy now. That's where all of the market are trying to hit up. Who wants to buy now? And that's about 3% of the market. Okay. And then you've got about 7% of the market that are thinking about buying and just doing some research and doing some analysis on who they're going to go with. And then you've got an even wider part, about 20%, that don't even know that they need you yet, and there's more down the line. So instead of focusing on everybody now, where everybody else is, we want to be further down the pipeline, and we want to be educating people, creating a rapport with people before they know that they need you yet, or before they're starting to look for you.
Yeah.
So that when it comes to that point, you're already ahead of all of the rest of the pack, because they've seen what you have, they know who you are, you've built a rapport, you've given them value, you've given them education.
Yeah. So a practical example would be, like if you're an accounting firm, like a professional service firm, example would be an accounting firm. You've got someone that's right now calling accountants to get quotes. But then you go further up the pipeline and you've got a business owner that is frustrated with their accountant. Maybe tax has gone wrong, or they haven't factored in payroll tax, or something's gone wrong and they've broken the trust, or they're not answering, they're not helping you. So now you've got a problem, but you're not quite looking. So you can either target someone that has, as you know, it's just that's got that problem, starting to look, potentially people starting or looking or comparing, versus someone that needs one right now.
Exactly, and they're going to crunch you on price if they want it right now.
And so the same thing happens in manufacturing. The same thing happens, in service firms, because it's business to business. So it's typically they've got a supplier, but that supplier is starting to let them down, and they don't know any better. It's when they're in that space and they're standing out on site and their trusses haven't arrived on time, or the accountant hasn't sent them through the information. That's when you want to get them with what they're looking for.
Absolutely. And all of that comes back to knowing your ideal client inside and out, and having built around your ideal client. Because when you create this piece of education, you're basically going to point on their frustrations, and you're sort of going to poke the bear, in fact, and get their emotion involved. And that's what you're going to give your gift around, is identifying those frustrations and giving a solution for it. So giving like some quick tips, or the 3 things to avoid, just a really consumable piece of education built around your ideal client, naming your ideal client. So saying trust manufacturers. If I just say manufacturers in general, you get lost in the crowd. If I say trust manufacturers and you're a trust manufacturer, your interest is piqued.
Yeah.
Okay. So
so it's like like the accounting firm was specifically in the titles as productivity and KPIs for law firms. Cash management for law firms.
Correct.
Even though it's very similar for other firms, you're going to have a much higher uptake of legal firms downloading that information and taking an action.
Correct.
One of our other clients in the boardroom the other day. So there was a team of advisors that help people do cash flow, debtor financing. And so it was like, who's your ideal client? Any business that needs debtor financing. Well, you might get some uptake. But if a tradie's listening to this and I say, it's debtor financing for tradies within 48 hours, that's very practical, very real. You're saying no to a whole bunch of people, but you're saying yes to the right type of people.
Yeah, and those people relate with it straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think the next step to that is having that education, and then having a system where you can automatically deliver that education.
Yeah.
So I think people need to look at getting a CRM or something like a MailChimp, or there's a few Kartra and Infusionsoft or something like. There's a few of them out there. A way for you to basically build a system of capturing leads on opt-in form, a landing page, and then getting them to opt in for your gift. And then being able to send that out through emails.
And the reason why this is so important comes back to referrals. So if you want your clients to refer you, there needs to be a mechanism in which they can do that.
Correct.
So if you look at our website, they can download a checklist, they can download the book, they can watch the podcast. There's a bunch of stuff that you people that are listening, or our clients, can refer around, which creates the word of mouth. That's what you need for your firm. Like, your clients something easy for them to say, oh, you should go try this manufacturer or go try them. Have a look at this, download that, have a read of it, and you'll see what I mean. And it's a nice, simple first step for them to actually take before the big lunge.
Yeah, correct. And another good thing this works with is reactivation. So if you've got a list of people that you've tried to work with in the past, or that you have worked with in the past and somewhat lost touch, and they've got them sitting in a database, having a gift like this can reactivate a lot of people that you've maybe not had contact with for a while. So you're just providing them with education. There's no sales in it whatsoever. You're just providing them with some value and building some rapport.
Yeah.
So not only can you get referred people into this pipeline, but you can actually reactivate people that you thought you would have already lost.
And that's a really interesting thing you just said around the no sales. This piece of education needs to be something they can pick up and implement themselves.
Yep.
Like it might be the process in which you manufacture something. It might be the steps that you take to, like with the truss manufacturer, for example. Our client, they go to the next level in terms of strengthening everything. So there's extra timber, there's better quality timber. So when it gets installed, there's no bowing, and the roofs don't cave in, stuff like that. So the install is easier, and then the longevity of it is much, much better for the same price. And it's because of how they were able to manufacture it and how they buy, which means they can do a better quality product at the same price, which is just amazing. But there's no point in having that advantage if you can't communicate it. And if you can poke at a hot button of a builder, and then they can understand that, then they're most likely going to use you to prevent having problems in the future. So, that's really what you're going for here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think going on from that, once you've got these people in your database, it really gives you an avenue to communicate with them on a regular basis. And again, providing education, providing value without the sales, you can build what we call a nurturing campaign. So once they've come into your database from a referral, from a reactivation, we can then work out a process.
Could be existing clients that aren't purchasing all of your services yet.
Absolutely.
It
Yeah,
could be
absolutely.
Or maybe reactivating some clients that haven't bought for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we get our clients to build a bit of a timeline of delivering value to these prospects, to these clients, whatever they are, over a longer period of time to keep you relevant, to keep you in their mind. And they're things like you don't just have to create one white paper. You can create lots of white papers, lots of gifts, lots of education, lots of content around your industry and the frustrations you have in your industry and the solutions to the frustrations you have. You can build a campaign around nurturing these people, right, before they get to that point where they're ready to buy, so that they've got educated from you, they've got value from you, you haven't been salesy, and then when that time comes, they're more likely to go with you in the end.
Yeah. And, as we mentioned at the start, if you're listening to this, it is actually ideal if you don't have a full marketing team, because, this stuff can be done quite easily. You can create 20 pieces of content by answering 20 questions and then just documenting it. Done. So you just take a full day and, you write all that content, you plug it into the system. There you go. You've got 20 pieces of content that are effectively going to go out twice a month. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
Everything you need to be thinking, yes, I know I need to do that, but you've got to systemize it, make it easy, automate it, plug it into a system, and then it's done for you. Because if your marketing creates extra burden for you, that causes more peak and trough. If there's more peak and trough, there's less money. What we want is less peak and trough. So the white paper, the landing page, the nurturing campaigns, the reactivations, the supporting of referrals done automatically or automated reduces dependency on you and creates more of that even curve.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And one other thing to note, this whole nurturing campaign, and even from the white paper through that nurturing campaign, should all be built around assisting your sales process that's already existing, because surprising fact to people, but to get someone purely from a cold prospect to a client, all done digitally, is a very, very hard task. I mean, depending on your industry, depending on what you do, depending on what your product is, but particularly for manufacturing and professional service firms, it's very difficult to have that whole process digitally. So when we do it, we all do it to support your existing sales process, to help
Yeah,
that
it's
phone
not
call,
gonna-
that when you make that phone call, all of these emails, all these nurturing emails are going to make that phone call easier. So
right.
that should be the focus of how you structure it.
Yeah.
It's an
It's
important piece.
more of just automating menial tasks rather than replacing it.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
Look, because a lot of you listening will be, needing to go out on site to measure up things. There might be site visits, particularly in manufacturing, if you're manufacturing equipment, or the installation of stuff, or if you're a law firm, architectures, accounting firms, they're gonna want to meet you face to face. There's always that initial meeting, and I think that's really where a lot of this comes to play, because if you have education, there's more authority, there's more understanding of the value that you offer, which then in those initial meetings, the understanding of their needs, the quoting, and templating and systemizing all of this is going to help with the conversion. And they'll convert at a higher price point because they understand the value. They understand there's extra bit of timber, or they understand that you're going to come out and present their P&L and balance sheet and take them through their financials. So whatever that extra bit of data or value is, there's going to be less questioning around, the price of that at the end.
Absolutely.
And then, so you can see that if you take that holistic approach, the strategy, the structure, right through from, the landing pages, the white paper, the nurturing campaigns, the quotes, the initial meetings and the quotes and the jobs. And if you look at it holistically like that, you are going to get more of an even curve than these peaks and troughs, which is everything you're trying to overcome. So, it would be easy just to say, give us more leads. But, it's probably better to just say, give us more profitable jobs that are going to make us more money.
Yeah.
And the right amount of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the question shouldn't be, give me more leads, is help me convert those leads.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Great. So is there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up for today?
No, I think that's it. I think, if you take anything out of this, it is just to be really, really defined on who your ideal client is. You need to build your business. You need to build your strategy. You need to build your marketing, your language, everything around that ideal client.
Yeah.
Servicing them, converting them, all of those sorts
It's
of
the
things.
only way to cut through.
Yep.
And particularly if it comes back to scaling, it's much easier to scale more of a similar sort of thing.
Absolutely. Yep. And once you've done that, if you can automate it, then you're winning.
Beautiful. All right, Rob, well, thank you very much for your time today. And
worries.
for those of you that are listening, look, somewhere around here, this podcast will be a link for you to be able to click and download your own kind of little health check. There's a bunch of different items. You can tick the boxes whether you have it or you don't. And if you do have it, just rate how effective it is. And that'll give you a very visual and clear understanding of all the things we were talking about today and how you perform in those things, and give you an idea of what are the specific things you need to implement.
Right.
Cool. All right.
Cool.
Thank
See
you.
you next time.
See you later.